Let's start with a fundamental truth of human interaction, especially in a professional context. People do not like being sold to. It's a simple statement, but its implications are profound. The moment a prospect senses a sales pitch coming, that familiar shift in tone, the scripted language, an invisible wall goes up. You can almost hear it click firmly into place. This isn't a conscious, deliberate decision they make. It's a deeply ingrained, subconscious defense mechanism. Think about it from their perspective. This wall has been built, brick by brick, over years of experience. It's fortified by every unsolicited call that interrupted their day, every email that promised the world but delivered little, and every high-pressure tactic that made them feel like a target rather than a person. Each broken promise and overhyped claim has added another layer of reinforcement. This wall is emotional, not logical. It's a gut reaction, a feeling of being on guard. And because it's emotional, it is incredibly fast. It can erect itself in the first few seconds of a conversation, often before you've even had a chance to state your purpose. Once that barrier is up, your message is effectively neutralized. It doesn't matter how compelling your offer is, how revolutionary your product is, or how much you genuinely believe you can help them. Your words, no matter how carefully chosen, just bounce off it. You're no longer speaking to an open-minded individual, you're speaking to a defensive posture. They aren't truly listening to understand, they're listening for the right moment to say no thanks and end the conversation. This is the primary reason why so many sales conversations fail before they even begin. Traditional sales techniques often make the mistake of trying to smash through this wall with force, using aggressive pitches, overwhelming data, or sheer persistence. But this only makes the wall thicker and higher. You can't force trust. You can't demand engagement. Truly effective sales, the kind that builds lasting relationships and genuinely helps people solve their problems, starts from a place of understanding. It begins by acknowledging that this wall exists, respecting why it's there, and recognizing that your first job isn't to sell, but to create an environment where the prospect feels safe enough to lower it on their own. The goal is not to find a clever way to climb over the wall or sneak around it. The goal is to be given the key. It's about earning permission to have a real conversation, transforming a defensive monologue into a collaborative dialogue. This is where we shift our entire approach. Instead of pushing a message, we create a pull by demonstrating from the very first second that we are different, that we are here to listen, and that we respect their time and their space. Most people make a judgment in seconds, you know. In a sales call, that window is even smaller. The other person decides in the first few words whether you are worth their time. They are listening for clues. Does this person sound like everyone else? Are they going to launch into a long, boring pitch? Is their energy needy or desperate? If you sound pushy, if you sound aggressive. At the very heart of an effective opener is the PST platform. This is a simple acronym that stands for Problem Solution Transition. Think of it as a 3-line script that forms the core of your first 30 seconds. Each part is intentionally short and serves a very specific purpose. In the NEPQ methodology, the journey to a meaningful conversation begins with the PST framework. The very first, and arguably most critical component, is articulating the problem. This isn't just an opening line, it's the foundation upon which trust is built. In a world where prospects are constantly bombarded with sales pitches, their default response is to put up a defensive wall. They've been conditioned to expect a monologue about features and benefits. Starting with a problem statement that they instantly recognize is the fastest way to dismantle that wall. It communicates empathy and understanding before you ever mention what you do. The effectiveness of your entire opener, and indeed the rest of the conversation, rests heavily on how well you execute this first step. The problem you state must be carefully chosen and meticulously crafted. It's a delicate balancing act. It needs to be specific enough to resonate deeply with your target audience, making them feel seen and understood. This shows you've done your research and grasped the nuances of their world. For example, if you're speaking to a financial advisor, you wouldn't just say, "Finding new clients is hard." That's too generic. Instead, you might say, We've been speaking with advisors who find it's becoming increasingly difficult to stand out in a crowded market, especially when trying to attract the next generation of investors. See the difference? It's specific to their role and a known industry challenge. Similarly, for a marketing manager, instead of "getting leads is tough," you could try, "Many marketing leaders are finding that while they can generate a high volume of leads, the actual quality and conversion rates are not meeting sales expectations." This level of specificity is what earns you the right to continue the conversation. However, and this is crucial, the problem must also be general enough that it does not feel like you have been spying on them. If you mention a specific internal project or a conversation they just had with their boss, you cross a line from insightful to invasive. The goal is to articulate a universal truth for their specific role or industry, not a private fact. This generality ensures they feel understood, not monitored. It allows them to map their personal, specific experiences onto the general framework you've provided. The goal is to trigger a flicker of recognition, a quiet "that's me" moment in the prospect's mind. It's a subtle, internal nod of agreement. This is the moment the defensive wall begins to lower, and their mind shifts from "how do I get off this call?" to "okay, you have my attention. What else do you know?" This moment of connection is the key that unlocks the rest of the NEPQ process. This is not achieved with complex language or industry jargon. In fact, using overly technical terms or corporate buzzwords can have the opposite effect, making you sound just like every other salesperson. The power is in simplicity and clarity. You are describing their reality back to them in plain, relatable language. By mastering the art of articulating a universal problem, you shift the dynamic from a sales pitch to a collaborative discussion, setting the stage for the solution and transition that follow. The simplicity of hinting at a solution. Once you have articulated a relatable problem, the next step is to introduce the S for solution. This part of the opener must be handled with care and subtlety. The biggest mistake salespeople make here is reverting to a traditional pitch. They see this as their cue to start listing features. The magic of T. The soft opener and the transition to dialogue. We now arrive at the T for transition, the final and most powerful piece of the PST framework. This is the soft opener. After you have stated the problem and hinted at the solution, you must resist the urge to keep talking. Instead, you pivot. To truly understand why the soft opener is so effective, we need to look past sales tactics and into the realm of human psychology. Its power doesn't come from being a clever trick or a manipulative script. Instead, its effectiveness is rooted in how it aligns with fundamental principles of human behavior, particularly our deep-seated need for autonomy and control. Think about the typical experience of receiving an unsolicited sales call. From the moment the prospect answers, they are on guard. Their defense wall is already up, braced for a pitch. This isn't just a conscious annoyance, it's a subconscious, psychological reaction. There's a well-documented principle called reactance theory. It states that when people feel their freedom of choice is being threatened, they experience an immediate, negative emotional reaction. This reaction, called reactance, motivates them to restore their freedom, often by doing the exact opposite of what is being asked of them. Every person has an innate, powerful need to feel in control of their own decisions and environment. Traditional sales approaches often trample all over this need. They use assumptive language, create false urgency, and push for a decision, all of which signal to the prospect's brain, your control is being taken away. When they feel that control is being threatened, as they almost always do in a conventional sales call, their natural, instinctual reaction is to resist. They might give one-word answers, raise objections, or simply say, "I'm not interested," before you've even had a chance to explain why you're calling. This resistance isn't always logical or based on the merit of your offer. It's a primal, emotional response to a perceived threat against their autonomy. Their brain isn't evaluating your solution. It's fighting to regain a sense of control. This is where the NEPQ soft opener changes the entire dynamic. It works by directly addressing and neutralizing this psychological reactance from the very first second. Instead of trying to push through the wall, it simply gives the prospect the key to open the door themselves. By using calm, detached, and permission-based language, you are communicating the opposite of a threat. A phrase like, "I'm not sure if this is relevant for you, but would you be open to learning a bit about how we're helping other firms in your space?" Immediately hands control back to the prospect. The words, "I'm not sure," convey detachment, showing you aren't desperate for a sale. "Would you be open to" is a question of permission, not a demand for attention. It respects their time and their right to say no. By doing this, you deactivate the threat response. The defense wall comes down, not because you knocked it over, but because there's no longer a reason for it to be there. You've created a space for genuine dialogue. Despite the simplicity and power of the PST framework and the soft opener, many salespeople find it difficult to implement consistently. There are several common barriers, rooted in old habits and fear. The first and most significant is the habitual pitch barrier. Most sales training has taught people to talk. It taught them to memorize features, benefits, and to deliver them with speed and enthusiasm. Saying only 3 short lines and then stopping feels terrifying. Understanding the theory behind the PST opener is easy. Internalizing it so that it becomes a natural, automatic part of your communication style is hard. It requires deliberate, consistent practice. Old habits are strong. They will resurface under pressure unless you have replaced them with new, stronger ones. Mastery is built through repetition and self-correction. Here are 3 specific drills designed to help you learn the framework. Practice the skill and critique your own delivery. The NEPQ 3-part opener isn't a magic bullet. It's a carefully shaped key that lowers resistance and earns a real conversation. It shifts the dynamic from a high-pressure pitch to a low-pressure collaboration. Its power comes from respecting human nature, calm, permission-based, and detached. People don't want to be sold, they want to be heard and understood. Use it to open the door to real dialogue, one opener at a time. The engine of connection is the problem-solution transition platform. It shapes a relevant, concise introduction and moves quickly toward dialogue. First, the problem. State a relatable pain point, fast and general, not technical. Goal, immediate recognition. A quiet, "That's me." Example. Many clients tell us they're worried their retirement savings aren't keeping up with inflation. Second, the solution, a non-pitch promise focused on outcome, not product. Example. We help people optimize existing portfolios with a low-fee, growth-focused approach to speed progress toward financial independence. Third, the transition, the soft opener that hands control back. Example. Would it be okay if I asked a couple of quick questions to see if what we do might fit your situation? I'm not sure yet. The PST opener earns permission, reduces reactance, and sets up NEPQ discovery questions. To master the NEPQ 3-part opener, you need skills, practice, comprehension, introspection. Strategy 1. The 3x3 repetition drill. Choose 3 client profiles. Write 3 PST openers for each. Practice aloud until your pacing and cadence are calm, neutral, and detached. Strategy 2. The reverse engineer listener. Study recordings of successful calls. For each opener, write down the exact problem, the brief solution benefit, the precise transition question. Strategy 3. The silent film self-critique. Record 10 deliveries. Watch on mute to assess posture. Watch on mute to assess facial tension. Score calmness from 1 to 10. Score detachment from 1 to 10. If scores are low, record 10 more. Slow your pace and lower your tone to project neutrality. The NEPQ 3-part opener replaces pressure with permission. Use problem-solution transition to start collaborative conversations. Mastery comes from 3 drills. 3 repetition. Reverse engineering top calls, silent film self-review. Implement the drills. Track your calm, neutral delivery. Adjust until it feels effortless. Do this consistently, you build durable sales communication skills and a higher closing ratio, one opener at a time. Thank you for doing the work. Stay respectful, stay curious. You've got this.